This segment is brought to you by Cypress Stop, home of the happy customer.
Everybody, welcome back into Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. It's time to check in with the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. And for that, we go to First Lieutenant Blake Tabor, who's with the office. And a pretty big arrest here. You know, we talked about different things coming in, crossing our borders. It kind of mixed here, but you guys worked with a couple different agencies and made a big drug arrest.
Absolutely. This is certainly one that we're very proud of, and you'll understand why very shortly. So, you know, over the last several months, we were provided some information, our narcotics division was, in reference to a Kenya Patterson, who's a 32-year-old male from Houma. Ultimately, he became the subject of that particular investigation, and then that investigation bled over into a number of different agencies, some of which is Louisiana State Police Investigative Division, DEA Task Force, and also Louisiana Probation and Parole. So ultimately, after the whole investigation culminated, they began on June 4th an operation plan to conduct a search warrant in the 200 block of Hanson Drive, where we knew Mr. Patterson to reside. So ultimately, as our agents and those other particular enforcement officers arrived there, they notated a very large amount of narcotics in that home. Now, at the time Mr. Patterson was not there, the home was unoccupied. He was actually apprehended a short time later. But during that recovery, we located over 750 grams of heroin fentanyl mix, over 300 pills of unprescribed medication, distribution amounts of marijuana, a rifle, numerous items of drug paraphernalia that are consistent with drug distribution, and close to $1,400 in cash. And I believe you see the photograph here on your screen. Some of this came from the Hanson Drive address, and some of the other evidence in this picture came from a separate search warrant. So as that particular search warrant was kind of coming to a close, Louisiana Probation and Parole arrived at another home where they came into contact with a Keandra Patterson, who is a known relative of Kenya Patterson. So they were doing a check at that location. It was at a house in the 200 block of Angel Drive. And ultimately, while they were there, they noticed a sleeping juvenile male who had a firearm in his waistband. So again, that brought a certain level of security risk to the matter. They were able to secure that particular suspect and weapon, and immediately called our narcotics division for some assistance. When we arrived, we did an additional search warrant on that house, which was granted through the 32nd Judicial District Court, and ultimately a search of that particular home was done as well. The search of the home led to the recovery of close to 35 grams of heroin, more drug paraphernalia consistent with drug distribution, 4 handguns, and over $4,200 in cash. Now, at that particular home, present was a Keandra Patterson. She's a 28-year-old female from Houma. A Giselle Mosley, a 24-year-old male from Houma. Both were residents of that particular home. And also a juvenile that we are not identifying at this time. So ultimately, they were arrested for a large amount of charges, and I'm going to read these off because they are extensive. So as far as Kenya Patterson, he was arrested for possession with the intent to distribute heroin, possession with the intent to distribute CDS2, possession with intent to distribute marijuana, possession of a firearm by convicted felon, possession of a firearm in the presence of illegal narcotics, illegal use of a controlled dangerous substance in the presence of juveniles, clandestine labs, and possession of drug paraphernalia, transactions involving proceeds from drug offenses, and some unrelated warrants. He is currently still jailed on a $611,000 bond in our jail. When we talk about Keandra Patterson, she was arrested for a multitude of charges: possession with intent to distribute CDS1, possession of a firearm by convicted felon, possession of a firearm in the presence of narcotics, possession of drug paraphernalia, and also transactions involving drug proceeds. She also had some unrelated arrest warrants that she was arrested for, and is currently still jailed on a $65,000 bond in our facility. Ultimately, Giselle Mosley was arrested at the scene after discovering evidence that linked him to that home, along with Keandra Patterson. He was arrested for charges of possession with intent, CDS1, possession of firearm in the presence of narcotics, possession of drug paraphernalia, and transactions involving drug proceeds. He was jailed on a $55,000 bond. Certainly the juvenile in this matter was remanded to the custody of the Juvenile Justice Complex for a charge of illegal possession of a handgun by a juvenile. And of course, we are not naming him at this point.
But boy, when you look at that evidence that they have, obviously the heroin, fentanyl, that can kill some. But when you look at those weapons, those automatic, whatever they put those large amount of bullets
Extended
magazines, plus, it looks like a AK-47 or one of those.
Absolutely.
So that's some dangerous stuff right there that needed to be taken off the street.
Absolutely. And look, and we talk about this all the time, right? Anytime you're dealing with drug activity or drugs and guns are involved, it is a recipe for disaster. And, we are extremely grateful that no one involved in this search warrant was injured, no officer, no citizen, and no suspect, certainly. This is not what we want, and this ended exactly how we hoped it would.
Yeah, and that's what we talk about, first responders, law enforcement people. That's what you're dealing with. When you're knocking on a door, they're just making a probation call, and the next thing you know, you're into something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, look, and imagine being at a home where a juvenile is brandishing a handgun with an extended magazine. For what reason?
Right.
And these things should not be considered the norm. I can tell you that our agency takes this very seriously, and as long as with the other agencies that were involved in this, and we'll continue to do what we need to do to rid our community of that.
A great case. We'll see where it goes from here. Blake, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back with more Bayou Time right after this.
This segment was brought to you by Cypress Stop, home of the happy customer.